All right, I hope this is working. Anyway, my issue was the classroom experiment as a requirement of school administrators. Right now, ISB requires that prospective administrators have 4 years teaching on a professional educator license. This means that teachers after 2 years can join a program like ours at Chicago State, finish 2 years in that program, and then become an administrator. The position I entered into this research with was that more experience would be good, and at the end of it, my position remains unchanged. The pros that one particular interesting article was in Educational Leadership by a fellow named Goodwin, who looked at the question about whether leadership was a function of nature or nurture, and arised on it's both, but it's more nurture. Anyway, one study he identified in the U.S. Army identified that experience is very useful when responding to stressful situations, and not as useful when the leadership situation calls for sort of collective intelligence. Another research piece I looked into was a study of over around 400 teachers, where they were asking them open-ended questions about what behaviors their effective administrators had. They arrived on 13 recommendations, and all of these occurred to me would be things that an administrator might do that would be better informed by experience, but 3 in particular seemed to me required that they required really quite a lot of a teaching experience. One was that the administrator demonstrates a fundamental respect for the teaching profession, and I think that more than 4 years is necessary for this, and I'll explain more about that later. The next is that teachers want an administrator to be able to offer lots of suggestions based on their own experiences. So this very clearly connects to more experience will offer more situations that I might be able to offer suggestions for. And finally, modeling different instructions tactics that certainly if I've used these in my own classroom, I'll better understand how to model these. The fourth pro was based on a study done on the effectiveness of teacher practice and they measured it by growth through value metric, and they found that teachers really improve a lot in their first year, continue to improve until their 5th year, and then they start to level off, and even in some high poverty schools start to dip. So I think this indicates that administrators that leave the classroom after just 4 years are missing that 1 year of growth. And going back to my earlier point about a fundamental respect for teachers, is that I don't think that a teacher with 3 or 4 years can appreciate what that slump is in year 6 or year 7. And I think that even if they're just working with other teachers that are in a slump and they not themselves in that slump, they may recognize this as part of your career, and it may help teachers or administrators avoid the dualism of good teacher, bad teacher, lazy teacher, hardworking teacher. The cons. There was a nationwide study as well as a particular report here in Chicago identifying administrator shortages. You may have heard that 50 or more administrators resigned or retired last year. They reported for the reason that they did not like the micromanagement, the paperwork of CPS, and they felt that they could not be successful given the constraints and budget constraints in the district. A small percentage, 25 or 30% of them said that they wanted more money. I don't think that this is a legitimate argument against certifying administrators with more teaching experience, because those issues seem to be better taken care of on the back end, providing principals more autonomy, reducing the amount of paperwork they have to do, and really funding our school system the way we always say we should. One report, Better Schools for a Better America, a manifesto, published 2003 and widely cited, really advocates going outside of the world of education to bring in leadership experience from other areas, paying school leaders and to a comparable salary to leaders in other fields. And this, I think, is a good argument without a research base. So I think it's worthy of really close examination, and that data may be available from charter operators, but it's something I was unable to find in my research. One thing that Goodwin pointed out in a small study, they followed 39 administrators and tracked what they did. They found that the administrators that more positively correlated to positive student outcomes actually focused on managerial tasks, such as management of the budget, decisions, handling of crisis, and also human resource decisions. And this was not the case. In fact, they saw negative student outcomes with teachers that focused or principals that focused on instruction or school transformation. So they do note, or our author does caution, that this could be that the students or the schools targeted for new instruction techniques or school transformation are the tough schools, and that may account for this disparity. Still, I think that might be the hardest con side of the argument to refute as far as my position, because it suggests that, whether it's 4 years or whether it's 7 years, it doesn't really matter what the requirement is, because what principals are going to have to do is quite different from what they'll do as teachers anyway. So I do agree with most of my authors that preparation programs for administrators really do need to focus on adult learning philosophies, and certainly I can thank our program here at Chicago State for focusing on that and helping us understand the difference between teaching children and coaching adults. So I think if there's a strong argument against changing the endorsements, it's that it moves the focus away from perhaps higher leverage changes to preparation programs. Nevertheless, I do support the raising the requirement for the endorsement to 7 years because of the reasons I've mentioned. In my call to action, I stopped short of a real strong call to action to change it right now, and I do advocate looking into research. It seems to me that the data would be available from University of Chicago if they want to look into it, CPS itself, principal preparation programs to track their principals and how many years teaching they have and how effective they are in schools. So I hope this was interesting, controversial, engaging, useful, whatever, and thank you. It's been my pleasure.